Hey guys, I'm Chris Sutton with COBRA Defense International. Welcome to our first podcast, the Sutton Impact Podcast. We're going to talk about business, self-defense, and life. I'm very excited. Our first guest today is Glenn Stevens. He is our first international COBRA member, our first instructor overseas. He was also our first magazine cover on Self-Defense Professional, which seems like eons ago. And I'm glad to have him, and I'm very excited about this podcast. Glenn Stevens, welcome to the podcast. How are you, sir?
Hey, Chris, I'm great. Thank you for having me on, buddy. Really appreciate it. It's a bit late here. It's about 11 o'clock at night, but I'm buzzed. I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to having a chat with you.
Fantastic. Last time Glenn and I were together, we were in Miami, and you could write a book on what happened in Miami. It was a great time, had a lot of great training. Glenn is very unique, and that's why he's on the podcast today. That's why he's the initial person. Now, this podcast, one thing I want to promise everyone is that my side is going to look as good as his side very soon. We had some camera difficulties today as far as our high def, but we're going to get it right. This is just podcast 101. My first question out of the gate, and once again, Glenn is, I always call him my friend from the future because he's always a day ahead of us. He gets Christmas early. He gets New Year's early. He gets everything early. He's always a day ahead of us. So what we want to talk about is your journey. You've been a lifetime martial artist. The story is the same for a lot of members, a lot of guys. I've done it forever. I got a bazillion belts. I've trained with a bazillion people. But to rise to a level that you have and a lot of our members have, there's a certain story behind it. And there's a lot of inner dialogue that goes on. And there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. And one of my biggest questions is tell us about yourself and your journey to being a regional instructor in Australia. And now, breaking news, a master license holder, which means you're the sheriff in Australia. You're the one that runs the game. You're the one that trains the individuals and gets them on board. And the onboard process is difficult, especially for people from another country. Talking to people from America, they may not trust the process, but you've accomplished a great deal of success with you and your team, been very innovative, and just tell us about the process and the journey.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, I would say I'm very similar to a lot of people. My journey is the same thing. Yeah, career martial artist. I've trained for 35 years. Love the martial arts. I've always loved the martial arts. Decided to open up a school, thinking that would be the best thing ever. I've got the passion for it, so why would I not run the sessions? And they start great and they're fun and everything's going well. And then as you progress, you then become a bit of a debt collector, and then you become a bit of a psychologist to everybody, and then you're running around chasing your tail, spinning all the plates all the time. So it kind of got to the level where I was enjoying it, but then the odd day I'd resent having to get up, and then it's a struggle to get there. And when it's a struggle to get there, but if I don't get there, I can't pay my bills. And if I can't pay my bills, I can't keep it open. And it was going backwards and forwards that way. And it kind of got to the point where I was working 18, 19 hours a day, having dinner at 11 o'clock at night, having to get up early, 4 o'clock the next day to go and run some PTs. And it just wasn't sustainable, just impossible to keep that going. So, like most people, when you get to a certain point, you find the sticking point. This has to change. And for me, the change was, well, what would I really want from this? I want to have a bit more balance back in my life. So I started looking around, seeing if there was a way. And that's when I found you, Chris. I found you online, saw all the marketing that you did, and it blew me away that there was a way that I could do what I loved without all the other pressures that I seemed to be having at that time. And I'll be honest, when I first did it, there was a lot of information. I was a little bit overwhelmed with how much information there was, because, like most traditional martial artists,
That's one of the things we get. It's so much information because an industry standard is take my training certification and I will sign the certificate and now you're certified in this. When you come on with us, it's here's your 15 manuals. Here's your 15 phone calls in the beginning with all your consultations. Here's your online dashboard and marketing and website and vehicle wraps. And we pride ourselves on giving people a business and not just a sheet of paper with a signature on it to make them feel good. And it becomes a game changer. So I totally understand what you mean by so much information.
But that was kind of the thing that I think I enjoyed the most about it. It was the fact that, hey, I don't know all the answers, but there's somebody out here that's been doing this. And the more I looked into researching into your background, so to speak, I could see you've been doing it a long time and you were having good results. And not even the financial side, that wasn't even what I was bothered about. It was more about, I just need to bring back the love of martial arts and how was I going to do this? So once I spoke to you and got everything on board, it took me a little while to get my head around it. But then once we started, we made a big decision to come over and see you, which was probably one of the best things we ever did, because we saw you actually running it as you were teaching it. So it wasn't just somebody just going, hey, here's what we used to do 20 years ago and it worked. This is somebody who's physically on the floor teaching what they're showing. And so we saw things that worked, things that didn't work. What do we need to take away from this? And we brought that back. And, was it going to work in Australia? Well, humans are humans. Adults are big, kids for toys. So it's just a case of trust the process, replicate the process, put your foot down and start going.
And as a side note, when Glenn came over his first time, I was on film 24 hours a day. I don't know if he hovered over me when I slept and videotaped how I slept, but he replicated everything we did. We did active shooter at his school. He came out with the camera. He was in every single class, every single document we had. He wanted to own the process. And, one of the things that I heard recently, and it's just shocking, is social media. You're on Facebook 40 minutes a day on average for the average human being that has a Facebook account, and 2 to 3 hours per day on the internet, period. Whether you're scrolling, you're on email, you're on social media. If you times that by how many days in the week you have, and you just allocate, let's say you cut that time in half and give it to something else that you want to be better at, whether it's a workout, you want to be better at business, no matter what it is, you will improve exponentially. That's just science and math. I put more time into something I want to be better at, I get better at it, period. And that's what Glenn did. He came over here and he spent a lot of money traveling to get over here. And I always say, if you're investing in your school, it should not always be in bags and mirrors and floors. Any business you have, furniture, anyone can buy. Throw it on a credit card, you got brand new furniture. Education and marketing and the science behind everything you're doing and how you're doing it. He went right to the source, and it's paid dividends. So, my next question, and I'm big on this. I learned it in law enforcement. The level of professionalism that you have to have. And law enforcement gets a bad rap lately, but I accompany law enforcement with military, first responders, firemen. There's bad people in all industries. And, right now we're highlighting the bad ones, and that's fine. But as a professional, when I started out in corrections and then went and transferred into law enforcement patrol operations, we used to call guys slot bag deputies. So a slot bag deputy was a way to say, this guy comes to work with a wrinkled uniform. His boots aren't shined. He doesn't put in the work to make himself look like an absolute professional, so people take him serious. Because the uniform is actually part of, you weaponize your uniform. If you look sharp and you look solid, people pay attention to that. Just like any CEO wearing a three-piece suit. So, what does it mean to be a professional to you? In this industry, there's a lot of that is lacking. You got guys that meet you at the door. They're sweaty. They got their hands in their black belts. Or, the other day I went to a gym to get some pre-made food because it was prepackaged, and it was a big box fitness center. And a guy met me with his shirt off. Yeah, he was in shape, but I don't need to see you with your shirt off as a first impression. I'm going to sign up at your gym when you're a shirtless guy with your hat backwards trying to sell me a gym membership.
Exactly.
Right there, you lost me on everything. I bought some prepackaged food, some pre-made meals, and I'm done. I didn't want to hear anything else. So talk about professionalism and what you do.
Yeah, well, even little things like that. It's like, how many times do you see martial arts instructors in their black belt with a uniform on going to get petrol? That's not a good look. That is not a good look.
Mm-mm.
Why aren't we wearing polo shirts? Why aren't we wearing smart trousers? Why aren't we looking the part? Why aren't we walking tall and confidently, knowing that the product that we have can change lives? Gone are the days when we can go, a kick and a punch is enough for people now. You've got to build
Yeah.
confidence with people. We've got to build a whole level of awareness and understanding. What I found the biggest change for me was I had to think bigger. I had to think that what I was doing wasn't Glenn's karate, it was a brand. People trust a brand. If you go to McDonald's, McDonald's is one of the biggest brands out there. Everything is done the same way. If you buy a McDonald's franchise, you're learning the process. You're learning, you're trusting the process, and you commit to the process, you'll get those results. And that was the biggest thing for me. The change from, I don't need to do this on my own. I've got the backing of the structure, the curriculum, and now all I need to do is step up and present myself and present this material. So whether that means to work harder on myself, why I came out to see you, brought Tammy out with me as well, so we could come back and take all that knowledge, practice that knowledge. As you know, Chris, my biggest thing I try and do with people is there's no excuse. You just be committed to what you're going to do. You don't even have to be perfect at the beginning, but you just could be committed and get started, and you'll get better as you improve. So we didn't even start by teaching all of the programs. We just started just with a fitness program, and we got really good at that. And as I can explain the reasons why we started that, and then everything built from there. But we had to make sure we had a product that was fun, was social, was different to every single martial arts school out there, because we're not just competing with martial arts schools, we're competing with sports, with cinemas, with everything. So you've got to break through that noise and offer something. And hey, criminals, as we know, they're everywhere in life. So people are unaware, they don't know what they don't know. So we've got to be evangelical about getting that material out there and putting it across in a professional manner.
Yeah, I remember being about, I think, 8 years old. I'd been in the martial arts many years by then. And, my story, if you compress my story, basically, I was born, my mom was extremely young. I had a younger brother. Uh, we couldn't afford normal sports like baseball or anything with the registration fees. I made enough money in the neighborhood to take my first martial art lesson at a very young age. I remember what the guy looked like. I don't remember his name. He had a red belt, a white uniform, white hair, and we were kicking those sheets that separate pages in your folder. And then my journey began. And my mom used the martial arts as a babysitting service. When does your school open and when does it close? I'll drop him off here, and he'll do whatever you need at work, take out the trash. But can he participate in as many classes as he wants? So I did. I did the kids class, the adult class, the whatever it is. Even if I wasn't allowed in the class, I'd be in the lobby, watching and doing it. Uh, One day, being about, I think, 8, 9, 10, I remember the door of the instructor's office being open. And there was two instructors talking about what they were going to teach that night. In my mind, I thought you should have been ready. Like, don't you know what you're going to do as a professional before you get out here? It's like two pilots in the front going, so where are we going? Yeah, no, you know who's on board, where you're going, exactly what time you're going to be in the air at a certain specific spot. And so when I created Cobra, I said, we got to stop this winging it stuff. Not all instructors do that, but many, many, many do. Even if you're doing personal fitness and any type of membership-based business, you can't come in that day and go, well, I think we're going to do front rolls and maybe kata two a couple times. And so when you come on board with us, it's out of the gate. Everything's written for you. This is what you teach on day one. This is what you teach on week 10. This is what you teach for Ladies Night Out, child abduction program, active shooter. Don't change it. It's written in stone. It's been proven to work in all markets that we put it. And if you want to make it your own and change it, it won't work for you. There's a reason that when I go to the barber and I get the same haircut every 7 days, if he does something different, I start questioning it. Why did you leave this side longer? Why did you go up too high? I need consistency. People love consistency and they love change. It's really weird, but that's a big deal.
Absolutely. And,
And
and I
so
remember
professionals,
with that, sorry, Chris, I remember with that when I did my first couple of sessions, I even had the curriculum manuals in front of me. So I was practically reading the curriculums. And my old me would have gone, that doesn't look very professional. But the new me was like, how much more professional do you want to look? You're following the game plan exactly as you need to do it. And then
yeah,
with
people
that,
love that you're prepared.
100%.
People love that you're prepared. Yeah, referring to notes is, you know, we're in a type A industry. As a cop, I'm type A as a martial artist, but there's restrictive type A, which it's destructive. Your ego makes decisions for you. Then there's a leadership type A, and that's what I promote, leadership. I remember having to read Miranda. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will. Or in the United States, that's giving a person their constitutional ability to shut up or talk. Well, some guys, they kind of knew it, but they had too much ego to whip that thing out, because you would have to carry it on. You could literally read it off of a card, because if you screw it up in person, that person might go free in court. Did you say and or? The attorney
Wow.
would say, I don't know. If I just said, I just read it right off the constitutional card, I win every time. So I don't let the ego make decisions. You become a leader and you make decisions based off of what's best for you. Uh,
Absolutely.
Next, in a country where they don't they don't see the need, or did not see the need, for active shooter training and preparedness, abduction training. As an American, I think every Australian is nice. They're going to greet me with a hug, and we're going to drink. What's the famous beer over there?
Foster's.
Not Guinness. Yeah, Foster's, which they don't even drink. Apparently, it's Bud Light. But that's funny. You don't know what you don't know. But crime's everywhere, and you've seen it. There's been shootings. People die, and you took the initiative to get out in front of that. So building building something from nothing in a country outside of America with an American product. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's really interesting with the active shooter response plan, especially because we're not even allowed paintball guns. We're not allowed airsoft guns. We're not allowed ball bearings. We can't even have rubber guns. You need a license, a firearms license, to even have those in the vicinity of anybody. So when the very first time we came over to see you and you ran your active shooter, we were like, oh well, this is amazing, but we just don't know how we're going to do it. And you said something really powerful to me. You just said, Glenn, it doesn't have to be a gun. Of course, it doesn't have to be a gun. Every school lockdown in Australia, it's never somebody with a gun, but it's an intruder on the premises. So what plan do you have in place? All the stuff that's happened over the last couple of years with cars, with knives, blunt objects, it's the same wherever you go in the world. Victims become victims when they don't know how to control their environment, maybe even see something happening before it happens with their awareness. And one of the most powerful things that we saw when we came over was, it's a very small part of the active shooter response plan, but it was just the fact that, do you realize that you can run this far quicker than it takes the other person to reload or to do whatever they need to do? And that blew our minds, that there's
That
always
visual,
something you can do.
it's powerful.
Yeah,
I do it all over the world. Go
and
ahead.
that's it. And the basic, that was the key, that there's always something you can do, and be sensible, move away from it if you can. But if not, the run, hide, fight, what does that really mean? How do you run? How do you fight? How do you hide? How do you do that? So by giving people actual skills in a step-by-step manner and having fun with it, and on our very first active shooter response plan, we had over 65 people. And it was a free event. We've always done them as free events. We never try and do any. If anything happens here, if there's a stabbing or abduction, we don't try and charge to do that. We don't feel that that's the right thing to do. But for us, it's out there, and we've had businesses who we would never even thought of doing it have come on board and said, can you show us what you're doing? Because not only are you teaching that, you're teaching skills, teamwork, and everything. So there's so many avenues that you can take it from, and it's just a case that you don't know until you get out there and do it. And you might be scared to do it, and you might not even do it 100%, but do it 80, 90%, and the next time it'll be 95%, and just keep practicing it. And that's how we found that we did it, is you just go, well, again, I'm going to trust the system, I'm going to follow the playbook, and yeah, and it's seen that there's a big need, and it's going to get worse over time.
And at that point, to infiltrate the industry as a person with experience versus a person without. So one thing I don't do is pick up the phone and say that I'm going to teach you something that I don't have an in-depth knowledge of personally or directly from a source. And one of the things we're trying to do in the industry is really shed that weight, knocking a lot of fleas off the dog, so to say, where, I'm not teaching you Taekwondo. I'm not, even though I've taken it, I'm not teaching you no-gi jujitsu. I'm not teaching you archery. I'm not teaching you anything that I'm not extremely proficient at and that I have not used out in the field. So when I ask the average professional, what do you do when you teach self-defense? Do you actually know what your defining objective is? I never get a right answer. Our guys can define it because that's what we do. That's all we do. Some guys will teach other martial arts on the peripheral. They'll teach fitness. But when you say that you're a self-defense instructor, active shooter instructor, abduction professional, I spent many years, 8 hours a day, being deployed to really horrible situations, seeing dead children, dead women, dead, men, burglars that are on their 50th charge, animal abusers, child abusers, kids that find pools that don't know how to swim because they lack that skill and no one taught them. As a self-defense professional, your job, your sole job, is to get a human being prepared for a violent encounter with a criminal, not an athlete, not a game player, not a friend, not an opponent, a violent encounter with a criminal who doesn't play by a rule book. A, to survive it, and B, to absolutely avoid it. You might not even know if you avoided it because you did the right thing. So that's the absolute definition of what we do. And the fact that a lot of guys cannot define it that way is disheartening. And I see guys that, when I say guys, this is episode 101, but anytime I refer to guys, it's men and women, just you guys, you all that good stuff. But I've seen fitness studios teaching active shooter. And then I'll ask the hurtful question that these guys got to answer. Where are you getting this information? How are you qualified to teach this? I take it very seriously. I've seen guys die in the light of duty. I've seen a lot of bad things. And when you go out and teach violence management, is what I call it, you're managing violence with whatever weapons you have, whether your hands, your mind, your mouth, and you're teaching people and you don't have that foundation, it's reckless. And I think it's actually criminal. So we're really trying to turn the boat in the industry, and big boats turn real slow, as you know. But that's one of our main missions. So
can I just add something to that as well, Chris? Can I just add something to that as well?
Yeah.
Because when I was doing my research, everything seemed to be, hey, look, we teach the military, we teach these guys. And my brain was just going, but what about the 79-year-old woman? What about the woman who's got 2 children with her? What about the 5-year-old child? Those are the people that need self-defense more than anybody. What are you teaching them? And there was never an answer. Well, we teach military. We don't do that. Oh my God, that's crazy. Those are the people that need it more than anything else.
Here's something funny. In this industry, I'm going to give you 2 examples. We get calls. Now, a lot of our information doesn't come just from us. 80% of it comes from the industry. I get guys like yourself from other countries, from in the States. They call us and we interview them. We really want to know their story. Why did you call us? Why did you pick us over everyone else? What's going on with you? Why are you making money? Why are you not making money? What's the best thing you've done? What are your struggles? What are your wins? And I tell guys, if you're living off your past, you're dying in the present. I've done a lot of things, but it's what I'm going to do that's most important. And a lot of people say, well, I was a 1981 champion of this, that, and the other. And I said, well, what are you doing now? You're calling us because you're not making money with that 1981 accolade. So let's get right to the point. So when we get into the semantics, so you really have to ask a lot of questions. I always tell prospects, don't talk bad about other systems or styles. School owners, don't talk bad. Prompt that individual to ask questions. How are you uniquely qualified to teach bullying and anti-abduction? How are you qualified to do that? And they'll go out and they'll figure it out themselves, because a lot of stuff in the industry, if you look online now, here's one example. There was a guy that had a credential on his site, and I knew this for a fact. He said that he provided security for a presidential candidate or a president, when in fact, that's what we call smoke and mirrors. It's a play on the situation. He was a parking attendant 15 blocks away from the airport in which the president landed. And he wrapped that into, I provided, because he was a bodyguard or something, services for, okay, services, making, being a valet parking lot attendant 15 blocks away from a presidential candidate. Do you see how I can roll that into making the public think that I'm something I'm not? And there's a lot of that in the industry. And that's why you have to ask the hard questions. Well, please explain your service and what you did with the president or whoever it was, and really drill down. Just keep asking questions until you don't have any more to ask. And wouldn't you do that with a house? You would do that if you're buying a house. You get inspections, you get appraisals. Same thing with a car. Let me test drive it. Let me really go through it bumper to bumper. But in this industry where it's life or death sometimes, whether it's your fitness or your health, your money, your kids, the public, they're kind of sheep sometimes. It's like, okay, well, you said it, I'll do it. So as a professional, we just try to direct them the best we can. Let's go into a big topic, very topical right now, COVID-19. I'll tell you from experience, this has taken the fig leaf off of a lot of people. It's pulled back the curtain. When you have members that, after 30 days, they're wiped out, their whole business is wiped out. Well, maybe you shouldn't have been a business. If it's that fragile, if you can't take a couple asteroids and keep on moving, if you can't take a couple shots to the leg and keep running, the good thing about this, there's a lot of good things, and I pointed it out to our members. It's wiping out all the hacks, or not even hacks, just the people that maybe should not be in business, the people that aren't going to make it, the martial arts school that was living week to week. I need to collect $50 tonight to make sure that I pay my water bill, and they're doing high pressure sales to even do that. Now, that's not saying that, the guys in the martial arts aren't making a lot of money, the guys in self-defense, whether it's, outside of COBRA, the fitness owners. But if you drive down the street and you see all these vacant and for lease signs, a month into it, there's an issue. And also the violence that has been shown through all of this. People are frustrated, they're locked up. We were light years ahead of everything because we had a digital resource where people could train from the comfort of their own home. We allow our members to use that. You can sell it as a bonus to corporations if they sign up for you. But in the COVID times, we were selling the online college and all of our books. And guys got to know Zoom. But we've also called it, it's passing. It is passing. People are getting back to normal. And if you couldn't handle it, this 5-round fight, maybe you shouldn't have been in business. And when you wipe out a lot of your perceived competition, the door's open for you. All this violence on TV, who's the number one professional? Oh, those COBRA guys, they're still around.
I agree, and the going on with that as well is like martial artists. They always talk about to their students, be this committed. You got to be focused. Come on, don't give up. Do this, do that, and then the first time sign of a real challenge, they just fold and they just give up on themselves. You should be like that quarterback that oh, I hurt my toe. Please take me off. I can't play the rest of the game. Or you can be that one that I broke my arm and I can't walk, but you give me that ball and I'm going to score that touchdown for this team. Let's do it. And that's it. My whole thought on when all this kicked off was, what would a black belt do? How would a black belt handle this? How can I make sure? How can I over-deliver when everybody else is struggling and under-delivering? Because, businesses might be struggling, but human beings are struggling. So what do they need? They need certainty. They need somebody leading and showing the way. And we did that by adding Zoom calls. As you said, there was lots of passive incomes opportunities, but it wasn't changing anything particularly. It was maybe supplementing it and just finding new avenues to get the information out there, but the information, solid information, and even more pertinent than it was before.
Yeah, and I'll share this with you right now. We are exponentially fielding calls about probably 50%, maybe 100% more than this time last year. Why? People feel vulnerable. This really has let them know that you don't have the skill and ability to protect yourself and your family and those around you unless you actually have that skill and ability. Nothing replaces it. Not an app, not crossing your fingers, not your political or religious belief. You need this. And they see the violence. They see people getting drug out of their cars, the riots over here in the United States. And you can't replace that with anything else. And so we've really risen to the top. We're, as you know, we're number one on Google in organically in a lot of self-defense categories. The COVID crisis is really, it's been great for business, not because we want people to be violent and mean. It's just really knocked out. I always say that when the asteroid hit, the big dinosaur said, oh, hell, there's nothing to eat. It's been a nuclear winter. All the vegetation died. So all the big guys started dying. All the little guys started eating on the big guys.
Yeah.
And they found a way to survive. And if
Yeah.
you can't,
And they
no
became
doubt
the
it's
big
been
guys.
difficult. Yeah. It's, and then you become what is left over, and you're the survivor, and you're the one that takes over. So it's no doubt been difficult for people. You approach it with a healthy concern, but you also have a plan, and you're always moving forward. You're finding a way to win. If you're not finding a way to win, you're not answering the bell. When that bell rings, you go to the center of the ring and you touch gloves and you fight and fight and fight. And a lot of people just weren't prepared for this fight. One thing, what is your definition? I always ask guys, what's your definition of success? And jumping back to COVID real quick, I tell guys, our chief operating officer, Mark, has conversations with guys and girls occasionally throughout this period and throughout the COBRA membership, oh, I want to quit. Every once in a while you get one that wants to quit. And so we ask you, okay, what are you paying for our membership? I think it's like $3 a day is what we break it down to. Because if you're trying to save $99 or $139 a month, and you've been with us for a long time, you just sold your car for gas money. It makes no sense. You literally have all these services and all this marketing in front of you where we have on paper many instructors making six figures plus, many instructors quitting their day job to do this full time because it's taken over what they make, whatever they're doing on the side. And they're very happy, and their success is, oh my gosh, one of the biggest successes for me, I made a lot of money and worked 4 times as hard, and I make a lot of money and work 3 or 4 hours a day. Which one do you want to do? And so do you want to work from 7 in the morning till 7 at night and not see your family? What is your defining, what's your definition of success? And I always tell guys, when it's all over, when you're on your deathbed or when someone says you got a year to live, how was the ride? I'll never write in my memo on, I wish I worked more. I wish I spent more time away from my family. I wish I traveled less. I wish I was always in pain and agony and worried. That in the memo section of your check, that's my paycheck. Time with my family, time to do things like scuba dive and taking you out shooting guns, the AR-15. You got your first assault rifle experience. But that's because when I started my business, I was a slave to it. It's just a leash. Like I couldn't. Oh yeah, you're in business, but where's the freedom? What's the point if you can't live life? And that's the biggest thing. I always wanted. If you know your definition of success, your compass is set. That's 70% of it. Period.
Absolutely. So originally, before I really got involved with COBRA, my definition of success was always financial. If I do this, I can retire this early. If I do that, I'll have this much money. But I was so chasing the wrong thing there. Now it's like we spoke and we said, look, let's set a goal of 1 million kids. We've got to teach 1 million kids. That's a ridiculously high, scary goal. That is the kind of stuff that's going to leave an impact when I'm gone, when you're gone. COBRA is going to continue, and we're going to be reaching 1 million children. There's 6 billion people on the planet, and our goal is just 1 million at the moment. That's a small goal when we really look at it. But that's what drives me. That's the passion. And I've been very, very privileged, and one of the proudest things I'm able to say is that because I've been able to do that, from 3 years I was able to go from struggling financially to building a fantastically beautiful house that I would never have had the opportunity to do, and that was with COBRA dollars. But it wasn't because I was chasing the dollar. It was because how evangelical can I get with this material? How can I teach it? How many schools can I go to? How many children can I respond with? How many other owners can I help so they can spread the message? To me, that's success. How many children have you taught? How many adults have you taught this year? How many companies have you helped? How many parents have you helped? How many kids have you helped from being bullied? That's the stuff. And one of the proudest things that ever happened to me was actually when we came to Miami last time and we did the mastermind, and one of the other owners came up to me and he said, Glenn, and he started to well up. And he started to, a few tears came down because it's the first time he'd really seen the CAP program and why we run it and why we designed it and how it was done. So the child abduction prevention program was so powerful, it made him cry. And he said, look, you just need to know that this is saving lives. And it's like, that's why we do it. That is why we do it. The money is irrelevant. When you're gone, you don't have money anyway. But how many people could you have touched with what you do? How many lives could you have changed with the material that you have and the passion that you have to get it out there? That to me is what success really is.
When you say that, you can have your cake and eat it too. And that's the company I wanted to build was good leadership, networking, which you don't have in this industry. Everyone's stabbing each other in the back. Even if your system and style have the same name, it probably doesn't come from the same area. There's no checks and balances. We do everything from list our active instructors on a national registry to making sure they're all on the same page, doing the same thing, teaching the same curriculum. And if you step out of bounds, you're off the boat because it's name a system out there or name a style or name a martial art that doesn't look across the street at the other school and go, well, they're not better than us when we learn from here. And they're not your competition. Facebook is your competition. More adults, they spend more time on Facebook than they will ever spend in your dojo or your gym because you're not getting them in. And so kids, it's not another martial arts school. It's soccer, they're sitting at home on their Xbox or video games. So first thing you need to know is who your actual competition is. And second, be an absolute professional. Third, join a network. We're a global brand. One of the funniest things that we hear is sometimes an owner will start in one city and then really close to that owner, someone else wants to start. And we give you a certain radius, 5-6 miles. And let's say this guy's 6 miles away. The owner gets really, a lot of them are like, hey, I don't want him next to me. Why would you not want someone doubling your marketing? They're going to market the same exact program, the same exact service, the same exact brand. And there's more people in your area. If I said you're going to have 5% of the people in your area come through your facility this year, you wouldn't be able to handle them because that's just too many. So all they're going to do is be pushing the same message. Now, we are in the second smallest county in the state of Florida, Pinellas County. We, one time we were ballooned up to 7 locations. I think we're at 5 locations right now because the Tampa market moved. But we've had gigs that are so big, 1,700 people in 3 days, that we called in, all hands on deck, and everyone shows up wearing the brand, wearing the uniform. I don't have to tell you the play because you already know it. We all work together, and it's a win-win, and we unify. And that's not common in this industry. I don't think anyone does it. And that was one of the missions that I had where if I pulled someone over, I got, I almost pulled my gun on another cop one time because they snuck up on me. So I pulled a traffic stop in the middle of a major highway, and it was really loud. And I'm talking to the person in the car, asking for all their paperwork. And I turn around, and there's a state trooper behind me. I'm a sheriff. I work for a different agency. The state trooper, they just pulled over to back me up. I couldn't hear her, and it was a female trooper. And I turned, there she was, and I was like, oh, I thought someone got out of the car and was coming around. We didn't have to talk about what we were going to do. She knew I was going to run the driver's license to check insurance. She went around to the other side of the car and just kind of stood guard. We almost didn't talk about anything. We just knew the game plan, and we worked for different agencies. But the underlying foundation was there, and that's what we all have as COBRA instructors, the underlying foundation.
And I think one of sorry, Chris. I was just say one of the proudest things that I think you should be proud of as COBRA is the biggest thing I've taken from you is it's always that better is better. If there's a better way to do it, we're going to find that way, and we're going to really commit. Could you tell me why that's so powerful for you? Because that is a thing that grabbed me. That was one of the biggest things that I discovered with COBRA that really drew me to you.
The better is better aspect and definition comes from I've let go of my ego. If someone comes up with a better idea than me and you can prove it, I'm on board. So let's take this CAP. I'll do 2 examples. In my business, I was teaching Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. the kids class. And so that made me anchor. I had to be there on Friday, when I had our brick and mortar before we sold it. And I was just getting sick of it. And one summer I wanted more time with the family. I wanted to go do stuff. So what we did is we made a small adjustment. I said, I'm going to eliminate Friday. These are 30-minute classes 3 times a week. Do the math. I'm going to do Monday and Wednesday 45-minute classes. So I'm going to extend those classes. It's just 2 days a week, and we cut out Friday for 6 weeks in the summer. Everybody loved it. I loved it. I knew I'm the one that wanted to do it, but the parents loved it. Now the parent didn't have to be there at 5:30 on a Friday when they were going to have date night or go on a 3-day weekend. They feel obligated. Okay, we're paying for this, little Johnny. You got to go. Better was better. Less was more. I started out teaching fitness. I said, you know what? I'm gonna be there at 7 in the morning. I'm gonna offer a 6 a.m. class. I was dead by the first 6 months. I said, no, we're doing 9:30 and 10:15. Guess what? 1 or 2 people were like, okay, I can't make those classes. But then everyone else, it made it a bigger class, more energy, less of my time. I made just as much income. And so better is better. And so let's take the kids course. Now, the kids 1-day survival camp was originally an 8-week course. When I started out, you don't know what you don't know. And so 8 weeks, little Johnny has soccer or T-ball. We're not going to make 2 of those weeks. Oh, dang it. All right. How about 4 weeks? So we knocked it down to 4 weeks. Now, this is an evolution of this program. 4 weeks, 2 nights a week, just for self-defense, COBRA self-defense. Okay, that's not working because you're still competing with everything else. Let's do 1 day. Oh, yeah, we can do 1 day. So I was a workworkaholic. Let's do 6 hours on a Saturday. You know how long 6 hours is with a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old? There's no cliffs in Florida, but I would have jumped off one. And so we cut it down to 4. And 4 seemed like the manageable time where you weren't losing them. That, and when you have the kid there, the parent has to either be there with them or they have to circle back around. And Saturday is a family day. So when you approached me about condensing it, we said, what's the biggest fear a parent has? It's not that their kid can't palm heel strike. It's not that their kid can't yell get back. It's that their kid's going to walk down the street and diss a freaking peer, period. That's every parent's nightmare. And I've taught the anti-abductions. Everything that's in CAP is in the original format. And when you do anti-abductions, I've had parents just cry on the spot because you answered a problem they've always had in here.
Yeah.
So when you said, let's just do it for 2 hours, let's just do it for 2 hours and shed all the fat and just focus on anti-abductions. Home run. That's better. And then let's give it a name. Let's give it a name that is easy to remember. Child Abduction Prevention CAP. It resonates. 1-day survival. It's good and it's still there. A lot of the owners still do it, but the offshoot is shorter, to the point. Lower entry point for price, which means you'll make it up in volume, and you solve the biggest problem. You get to the number one thing they're there for, and it's the abductions, the stranger awareness, myth busting with the parents, educating them as a whole, and that's the law of better is better. Now, a typical guy in my field might say, nope, I learned this in 1975 from Master so-and-so, or I've been lifting weights this way forever, or I've been eating in, when you get older, you have to change your eating habits. I do intermittent fasting now. I used to be able to eat 6 times a day. I don't eat until about 1 in the afternoon now, and I'm more alert. It's better. Better is better. I have to customize it for where I'm at in my 40s, but when you take something, you make it better and you see that it's better and you accept it, you're growing as a professional and as a person. And so many in the membership-based business, not just martial arts, membership-based business, fitness, self-defense, martial arts, Zumba, spin class, they don't want to upgrade. They don't want to do, and it's all it does is hold you back. So here's a better is better. Let me see. There it is. We all have one of these, right? See this guy? This is a smartphone. I could carry around my pager. I could carry around my my flip phone. I could send people what are those messages that they used to use on old ships like the Titanic? It's all the same thing. It's communication. I could use my VCR. I could do all that stuff. It's all communication, but this is better. Okay, you want to wear a beeper or a pager, whatever you want to call it, or do you want to be contacted immediately with the highest technology? You get to choose nowadays, and a lot of people carry that beeper. They wear the VCR. They're still in the Stone Ages, and that has to change for things to change.
Beautiful, love it, and again, that's what I think I've seen from you from everything. Like even as far as coming to the podcast now is a case of it just allows you to get your message out to more people in an easier manner. And how many people at the top of associations are prepared to put themselves out there like that? And so I've got to give you all the credit for doing that. And because I know let's I can be 100% honest with everybody, Chris. You're not always the most technologically, it doesn't flow as easily as the rest of it does. So for you to step outside your comfort zone, not because of any ego thing that you're doing, but because of you can see the benefit for other people. And again, that's so powerful.
Yeah, one thing I don't try to do is be good at things that I'm not good at. I try to get better in all areas of life, but I play to my strengths, because if I want to become perfect in something I'm really just not good at, it is going to take away from what I do best. And I like to lead. I like to help. Even our work environment. Our chief operating officer, he writes his own schedule. He lets me know when he's coming to work, and I think it's a huge plus when people feel like they're part of something. They're not just they're not an employee. That's why I call COBRA owners. You're not clients. Okay. We're not a collection service for our clients. You guys own a territory that's specifically yours. You own that brand in that area, and that's everything I've done is try to make it so different than everything out there, because everything out there just is not working very well. So two things before I get out of here. One of the things I'm going to just tell the audience, some business 101. I just gave you the stat of 3 hours a day people are on the internet. They're on a screen. Now this is work. This is different. Socializing, flipping through the news, looking at your Instagram, seeing how many likes you have. Let's say you're not the average. Let's say you're below average. Let's say you're 2 hours a day. Cut that in half and do something better with it. So 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, probably more on the weekend, 14 hours. That's a waking day. You took a whole day and flushed it down the digital toilet. Do something better with it. Read a book, write a book, spend time with your kids, start a business, get better at your business, listen to audiobooks, do whatever you can. That's, I do a force multiplier. So if you know my schedule, it's most of COBRA owners do. I wake up, have family time with my kids, take my kids to school. Then I go to what I call my outdoor office, the Dunedin Causeway. It's one of the #1 beaches in the world next to Honeymoon Island. And I have a mapped out 3.5 mile workout that I do. But while I'm doing that, I'll shoot a couple videos and I'll hit upload. As they're uploading, I am working out. As I'm working out and those are uploading, my truck is getting washed at the car wash right next to the causeway for the week. So as I'm walking, I'm coming up with new ideas, maybe talking to owners, doing some meetings, but I'm doing 3 or 4 things that are benefiting my day right then and there, instead of just wasting, okay, well, who's online? So that's really important. So take your time and reallocate it. My question to you, if you could corner someone for 45 seconds, 60 seconds, who had the ambition and the audacity to go into business for themselves, because as people think that I am sitting on a yacht throwing diamonds at my pet crocodiles and laughing about it with a cigar in my mouth. And every entrepreneur gets that label, and it's not, and all you guys are entrepreneurs, and that's not the case. We work hard just to be where we're at. What would you do if you just said, listen, I'm Glenn from the future, and I'm going to tell you something. You want to be in business for yourself? This is the advice I'm going to give you. So go ahead.
Brilliant. Very, very simple. You need to fill your pipeline of clients so much that when you lose a client, it's the best thing that's ever happened to you, because you are so busy. Commit fully to the process. Set yourself goals that scare you, that you think are impossible to reach. And if you really believe in your mission, you will find a way. If you don't find a way, you'll find an excuse. But there is never an excuse big enough if your goals are big enough. You've got to tie
That's
that
funny.
into why you do that. I do it for my family. I do it for the children whose families, whose lives I can change. But if you find your mission and you fill your pipeline enough, it's practically impossible to fail as long as you follow your playbook and you're fully committed to what you need to do.
You know, it's funny you say that. I've never heard it put that way, but I felt it. I felt it last year. Mark and I felt it. And you never think that you're going to be glad that you lost a client or that a client didn't sign with you. So, you know, Glenn said, you know, fill your pipeline so much that when you lose a client, you're like, oh, because I'm just overloaded. So it was coming to the end of the year, 2019, and we didn't know which end it was up. We were on planes more than we were on the ground. We went to every end of the United States except for California. It felt like we were in the snow, we were in the sun, we were in the mountains, we were in the Key. It was everywhere. And towards the end of the year, we had some client, they wanted to rush it in last minute. All right, it's December or November, and we're looking at each other like, all right, we're going to go to Washington. And then they called and said, we're going to put it off till next year. We're like, thank you. Yeah, we taught thousands and thousands of people last year. And at the end of the year, we were done. We were burnt. And that's just at the headquarters. So it really resonates when you say, fill your pipeline so much that you're glad when you lose a client and not trying to get that. And I do apologize. I'm holding the desk and it's shaking the camera. I'll stop doing that. But this, hey, Glenn, this has been fantastic. Episode 101.
Loved
I
it.
think it went well outside my lack of technical adversity. We will get that fixed. I think the sound is important. You made it look good with on your side. Your professional setup is just out of the park. I'm no Joe Rogan, but this podcast is full steam ahead with all of our guests. Some of the solo topics that I'll talk about. But yeah, we're going to fill it up. And if you have nothing else, man, train hard and stay safe.
And you as well. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And I hope to speak to everybody again soon. Thanks, Chris.
All right, man. See you.